Uninteresting?
I think that's a ridiculous statement after your last Chancellor, when you were in power, sold off all the gold and left us a note saying there was no money left.
13 years. And
Uninspiring. Unbelievable.
Meow.
These are the not very interesting times. Hello everyone, my name's Matt Johnston and welcome to The Interesting Times, which is a comedy show all about UK politics. There was some bad news in the UK this week as the interest rates rose for the 13th time to 5%. First of all, why has this happened? Well, Member of Parliament for Don Valley, Nick Fletcher, fresh from his being less than 1% of the House of Commons that supported Boris Johnson against the Privileges Committee report last week, was on Politics Live to show that that was no fluke.
Sold off all the gold and left us a note saying there was no money left.
13 years. And
we had 5 years of austerity to put your mess right. That's what's happened.
Exactly. They've only had 8 years in which to tank the economy, but the latest figures show they're doing their best.
Then obviously we came into government in 2015 on a track to get things where we want them to be, and obviously we've had Brexit.
No, Nick Fletcher, surely Brexit is one of the positives of the last decade, giving us billions of pounds of money in new trade deals with over 70 countries. That is, at least according to Nick Fletcher. But don't worry, Rishi spent some time at IKEA giving, ironically, a fairly badly put together response.
I think yesterday you would have heard some news about inflation. Today you may have seen what the Bank of England has announced with interest rates, and I'm sure that actually fills many of you with some anxiety, right, and some concern about what's going on and what does that mean for you and your families. Now, I'm here to tell you that I am totally 100% on it, and it is going to be okay, and we are going to get through this.
Yes, he really said that. The thing is, this might actually work. One thing that is becoming painfully obvious is that when Rishi Sunak is speaking, the interest always goes down. Don't believe me? Have a look at this. This is a picture of people listening to his speech and tell me they don't look like they're being laid off as the boss has a new pool to heat. This girl is broken, this guy is one Rishi pep talk away from going on a killing spree, and this guy keeps checking that he's still there. Like a vampire with no reflection, Sunak has no personality. But to top them all is this chap, who I imagine is middle management, who no doubt is having to deal with team morale and why they aren't getting a pay rise. After this, it'll be all he can do to stop them suffocating themselves with cushions. Except it's even worse than that, because that's Gareth Johnson, the Conservative MP for Dartford. Even he's trying to catch Sunak's eye to say, wrap it up, come on. And in amongst it all, and completely oblivious to the atmosphere being sucked out of the air faster than the strongest vacuum, is the man that can't read a warehouse. Our Prime Minister, looking like a training manager sent from head office to hand out mass firings, but wants to lighten the mood first with a few jokes. But don't worry, if your mortgage rise will leave you homeless, GB News has its cat's eye on the big news.
It emerged that a teacher had branded a 13-year-old girl despicable because she refused to accept that a classmate identified as a cat. Here is the fallout from that incident. We've got some leaked audio for you.
But you identify with the gender, with the sexual organ that you're born with, and whether you're weird. That's basically what you're saying, which is really despicable.
How? When it's if I called my mum right now, my mum would be sad on my side. If I called my mum, she'd sad.
Well, that's very sad as well, then.
How is it? Most of people agree with that. There's only a small majority of people who actually think about it.
And why do you think we have so many problems in the world with homophobia?
Yes, this is the news that a pupil in Rye College, Suffolk, wanted to be referred to as a cat. GB News went all in on what can only be described as a not so thinly veiled force of habit at the trans community, leading to one of its presenters, that lady who came second in The Apprentice about 15 years ago, putting on a pair of cat's ears and drawing on whiskers to make a point, and demanding that people call her Meow Shell. And when this clearly mocking behaviour was called out, she defended it, calling it her right to deal in reality. The thing is, it won't surprise anyone to discover that it's not the kids at a Suffolk school that struggle with reality, it's GB News, as it's all rubbish, made up. Unfortunately, GB News was so busy lapping up their own unnewsworthy vomit and so busy dressing up as a cat to check their saucer of facts. Listening to the conversation again will tell you that the only person bringing up the cat nonsense were the pupils, presumably to try to make a point the GB News were only too happy to swallow. Well done to the Byline Times, link below, for doing the admittedly light background work to get to the truth. And shame on GB News for regurgitating again and again this gaslighting bollocks. And a bunch of bitches too pussy to admit when they got it wrong. You have to ask, what sort of idiots believe this stuff?
But this just sounds nonsense. I mean, really, pretending that you're a cat.
But there's one problem. I'm a human, really. I'm not actually a cat.
And now, the Women and Equalities Minister, Kemi Badenoch, has asked Ofsted to start an investigation into Rye College, leading to the college itself having to deliver the immortal line that no one at the school has identified as a cat. And that's it. No time to talk about the fact that the Ashes started last week. The Ashes are a series of cricket matches that are held every couple of years or so between England and Australia. And the Ashes themselves are the ashes that were burnt from the wickets from when England lost at home to Australia in 1882. Although there has been no confirmation that this year they will be containing the remnants of Rolf Harris. Or indeed, if that is the case, who's going to keep them? No time to talk about Foreign Secretary and Fred Flintstone throwback, James Cleverly, talking on Sky News on Wednesday.
You were missing on Monday for that vote on the Privileges Committee report. You didn't vote. Why didn't you? And if you had been there, how would you have voted?
Well, look, the sad truth is being the Foreign Secretary, and I can't remember exactly what was in my diary at that point in time, but because I travel a lot and because I have a lot of commitments with the international community.
How would you have voted?
The point that you've made, where you're highlighting government positions, this was a free vote. This was House business. It's not government business. It's not whipped, and it's down to individuals. As I say, the Leader of the House said how important the work of the Privileges Committee was, as I say.
The original question, in case you missed it, was how would you have voted? And he actually was attending some party business.
James Cleverly, you're a Boris Johnson ally.
Fortitude is fantastic, but I'm afraid
you're going to vote for him tonight?
Last Wednesday was 7 years since the UK voted to leave the EU. A decision that, like an old episode of the black and white minstrel show, hasn't aged well, and that's putting it mildly. However, one of its most vocal supporters made a short video to the masses of thick planks that still think this is going well.
I fear, under a Labour government, we may just have to fight this all over again. Do you know what? If we do, we'll win again. Happy Brexit Day.
Ironic that he appears to be dressed for a funeral, and I'm not sure how he's going to be able to afford another referendum fight though, as Trump is about to replace his fake tan for a free bar one, Johnson is aiming to get a hat-trick of being fired by newspapers for lying, and Putin is, shall we say, kind of having his own crisis management situation going on at the moment. Add to that, the support for rejoining the EU is growing day on day. The Brexiteers are having real problems. I mean, what are they going to do? Stop people voting?
Watchdog says around 14,000 people did not vote during England's local elections in May because they were unable to show an accepted form of photo ID.
The BBC, though, had its own way of celebrating this monumental anniversary by having an all-leave voting audience on Thursday's Question Time. But thank God there was someone on the panel who was prepared to do the decent thing and speak the truth, no matter how awkward that must have been. That man, Alistair Campbell?
The people who led that campaign told a lot of lies. And having told those lies, they're still lying now. But I really do think that until we properly hold to account people who directly lied in the democratic debate and admitted it. You listen to Dominic Cummings, who actually ran the campaign. No, but he ran the campaign. Johnson was his little puppet, and he ran the campaign. And I think that whether it was them telling you that Turks were coming in, which was a lie, whether it was the 350 million on the bus, whether it was the trade deals that they were going to do, they knew when they said that they weren't. They wanted to get out on whatever basis and then deliver a Brexit that none of them could define.
Really? Alistair Campbell saying this? I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree with you, but it's strange to hear a man responsible for aligning ourselves with American intelligence to accuse Iraq of having WMDs in order to invade it, even though our intelligence said this was not the case, is now our political moral compass, just feels off. It's like hearing someone call Paul Golding a racist shit, and you're all ready to cheer until you realise it's Tommy Robinson, which just makes you stop and think and, Anyway, the one thing this Question Time panel didn't have is any Tory government lies. That's because it didn't have anyone from the Tory government who were busy halving inflatable boats or something, I'm guessing, to bask in the warm glow of Brexit benefits. The nearest thing we had was John Redwood, although it begs the question, if a redwood falls over on a BBC TV programme, is it still a lie? Yes, seems to be the answer.
In 2019, you were elected on a manifesto that said there would be a quick trade deal with the United States of America. So where is it?
Well, I didn't say that.
I think you can guess where this is going.
And it's very helpful that the new president thinks he can help fast-track a free trade agreement over and above World Trade Organization terms to improve the flows of UK-US trade. And there'll be goodwill on both sides. So let's get on and have a decent free trade agreement with America.
No time to talk about Commonwealth Games mascot, a bull called Ozzy, after Black Sabbath singer. They are both from Birmingham, heavy metal made both of them, and they both snort. No time to talk about Clive Myrie getting pulled by the BBC on its news show after making jokes about Boris Johnson on Have I Got News For You on Friday. Laura Koonsberg was then criticised for not stopping Ben Elton, who was laying into Sunak's question-dodging interview. Wait a minute, you can get in trouble for criticising the Tories and making jokes about Johnson and Sunak. Is it too late to book a flight to a far-off land where the Tories aren't welcome and they have at least a rudimentary grasp of English and claim amnesty? I hear Scotland's nice this time of year. Of course, the big news story this week has been the Tyson submersible and the relentless and ridiculous coverage that it got, and the wasted money and false hope looking for something that it looks like the authorities were aware had imploded days before. No jokes here, I'm afraid. It is a tragedy, irrespective of the money these people have made. Every part of it, from the greed of the people operating it, to the recklessness of those going on it, to the jaw-dropping and depressing headlines it seems to have produced. And any life lost should be mourned, but equally, or at least more equally, than we are currently doing. Last year, whilst fleeing war and climate disaster, over 22,000 people were drowned. And this is a comedy programme. Well, it's labelled like it is, so I didn't really feel comfortable making jokes about people dying at sea. So instead, I have unearthed an old sketch. It's a few years old, but I think resonates as much, if not even more so now. Thank you everyone for watching, and do take care.
Well, of course, you see it in the papers, on the telly, and also says boat after boat. And look, I'm not a racist, okay? I just want to make it clear, I am not a racist. However, I'm sorry, but I think we should be looking after our own. You know, that's it. Nobody else. Which is why I believe, and I know people are going to call me racist even just for saying it, but enough's enough. I believe the only race that should be allowed to get into this country is a human race. No, I'm sorry, but it's time that people looked after people. So I'm just going to say it. If you're not a human being, then we don't want you here. I am a proud human being. And both my parents, they were human beings. And the parents before that, and well, I haven't done much digging, but I imagine it goes back even beyond that. I guess what I'm saying is the UK should be for, you know, people. So no Yetis, no sea devils, no blood-sucking creatures of the night, no gargoyles, no to the undead, no to the brain dead, whatever the fuck this is. And let's save those like ourselves, you know, people. Because, well, it's a human thing to do.